Hi, good evening. I am Jayesh from Ascent. I would like to introduce my colleague Calvin and Kishore. Calvin from Singapore office, and he is a regional head of operation APAC. And Kishore is from Pune office. He is a vice president in India FA operation. We will introduce ourselves. Is one of the largest fund administrator, serving over $20 billion asset under administration. Ascent presence in 10 locations globally. Head office is in Singapore. Ascent has rapidly grown to 150 plus employee and 15 offices globally. We are purely fund administration company. The idea of the Ascent is local support with global expertise. Ascent is an independent global fund administrator dedicated to providing customized solution to a wide range of asset managers, capital market, family office, investors, private clients. Our fund services product offering specialize in private equity, venture capital fund, hedge fund, unit trust of fund, funds of funds, Singapore variable capital company, limited partnership funds, and managed accounts. Services that Ascent provides include, but are not limited to FATCA reporting, CRS reporting, US tax reporting, middle office directorship, corporate secretarial, corporate accounting and audit and FX solution. Ascent has a technology platform that integrates all process and procedure for streamlined valuations, 24/7 web portal, eKYC, automated transactions monitoring to manage high volume transactions. We believe in as much as possible automation, and we use advanced technology for fund accounting services. As fully integrated API capabilities to effectively accounts for all transactions, we have been able to build up a fund specialist team, highly qualified and experienced professional, and the experience managed to provide you with the best services and quality delivery. As I mentioned, this is a purely a fund administration company. So from the management and all our staff, employee, everyone is from this industry only, and they are highly skilled on the fund administration side. We are awarded Best Fund Administrator Services Technology Solution APAC 20 and 21 also. We are ICAI 3402 certified type 2. We are registered filing agent with the Accounting and Corporate Regulatory Authority of Singapore. As I mentioned already, 20 billion asset under administrator, 150 plus staff, 15 offices globally, and 15 languages ours. So when I am talking about Ascent technology and software, we are using a Paxos, which is #1 software for the fund accounting globally, specialized funds accounting and fund administration system. That is a product of choice for administrator for both alternative and traditional funds worldwide. We use Ascent Connect. Is a real-time 24/7 web portal that enables fund managers, investors, and other authority, third parties to access their information. So this is again a real-time web portal. So once we complete the accounting process and we close that, and then all the reports can be accessible by investor manager, investor through this portal, which include balance sheet, profit and loss account, almost all statement of account. Every reports generate this system can be accessed by this Ascent Connect. As I mentioned, we are a fintech company. We are we want as much as automation, as much as using advanced technology. We have a Genesis. That Genesis is our proprietary software. Through that Genesis, we digitally onboard clients. We complete digitally their KYC. All the information which we collect from the KYC, automatic sync with the AML check and internet search, world check, CKYC, KRA, all that get automatic generated through this platform. We signed a subscription agreement also from this platform. So onboarding any investor, it's just a 15 to 20 minutes for investor to log in here, complete their KYC and sign the subscription agreement, and backend, the software will all it will take 24 hours to complete all the AML check, world check, and we get the PDF version of report, which we share with the investor manager. In fact, we have a login ID password for the investor manager. They can also go and look at that, what is the status of their investors, about their KYC as well as about their subscription agreement. Going to next, best benefit of outsourcing. That's the topic what we have today. Fund administration, structuring, and about what is the what will be the best use of fund administrator for the investor manager. So that's a independence. Independence, since fund administrator have robust control and generally have their process undergo a SOC audit, there is an increase in sophisticated and institutional investor demanding for independent fund administrators. So nowadays, all this institutional and high ultra HNI always look for the third-party services provider who are independent to provide you fund accounting services. We, as well as fund managers, can be a more focus on their core activity, such as trading, assessment of the investments, raising capital, and not be thinking about the administrative matters and regulatory reporting. So fund manager can always focus on their core activity. We are taking off entire backend, and we will be providing end-to-end all the services: accounting, compliance, investor onboarding, eKYC. You get a technical expertise, fund administrator as well as works with the relevant fund operation and asset classes. So you get because these teams are always very experienced, 10-15 years experience, work with the many different type of funds. So they can guide you, they can help you to structure your fund, and obviously means this expertise going forward always help to deliver you fund accounting services. So as I mentioned, we are using the best software for fund administration, that's Paxes. So that's again that's a leverage. Like expertise with the resource work alongside with your fund, and fund managers are ensure that the operation and the fund remain 100% compliance, leveraging on the defined administrator technology. Continue of services, that we have a team who's going to help you. So suppose in case of in absence of any other person, there's a team who can take the handover. So the continuity of the services is always there. Fund administrator to perform your fund accounting as well as AML requirement for a specialized accounting system. They're actually costly, not only due to your vendor cost, but also the time and other costs to support use and training of such system. So buying the software, installation of the software, and training of the software all become a challenge for the investor manager. When they outsource all this, they get a better services because the teams and the software are always with the fund administrator. So I'm handing over to the Kishore. Kishore will take you through the how does that fund accounting and fund administration works. Kishore, you are there, right? One second, I'll unmute you.
Yeah, thanks, Yash. Hello, everyone. And I'd like to start with thanking the organizers to provide us an opportunity to present ourselves in this forum. Thank you so much for providing this platform to us. So to introduce myself, my name is Kishore Sadhe. I work with Ascent Fund Services over here in Pune office. I typically manage the global clients as well as the AIF clients for Ascent Fund Services over here. I have spent around 15 years in this fund accounting domain. So I come with experience in this fund account domain to manage the global clients as well. So that's about me. Now, moving on to the next slide. So the slide talks about the purpose of the fund administrator, as many of the points have Jayesh has just elaborated earlier. I'll just focus more on that. So when we talk about the fund administrator and providing third-party services as fund administrator to hedge fund managers and investors, so independence means essentially the fund administrator services will be third-party services, and by providing these services, the investors get the protection of independent verification of assets and valuations of the fund. So that's from the investor side of it, and from the fund manager side of it, by outsourcing these fund administration services, the fund managers can focus more and more on the portfolio management side of it internally. Typically, this fund administration service is comprised of two parts. One is fund accounting, and the other is activities of registrar or transfer agents. Basically, we call it as investor services. So we'll touch base on both the fund accounting as well as an investor service part in the coming slides. Another important aspect of the purpose or the role of fund administrator is that the fund administrator will bring a standard operating procedure or a set standard of process to be followed within the fund accounting vertical itself. So fund administrators will get their work process flow audited internally as well. As Jayesh has mentioned earlier, Ascent is an ISA 3402 category type 2 audit compliant entity, and our workflow gets audited by Deloitte on a periodic interval. So when we say this, in turn provides an assurance to fund managers and as well as the investors that the quality of services provided to them uh, indeed a quality service. Talking about governance, governance is nothing but an environment which follows all the checks and balances and make sure the quality controls are in place as well. So if I have to talk about one of the key governance point over here in the fund accounting vertical is to ensure that the bank accounts that the fund operates have joint signatories, so which provides additional layer of protection to them. Moving on to the technology aspect of it, as you mentioned uh, uh, in our presentations previously as well. So technology plays a very vital role uh, in this competitive world where the fund managers are looking at different methodologies or different structures to effectively provide the robust performances to their investors and everything. And at the same time, they would like to have the reports in place which are audit compliant as well. So that's why the technology becomes a very important aspect of the fund accounting or fund administration role. Retail accounting firms generally use applications which are not really made or built for managing the funds. So applications like Zero, Myop, QuickBooks, these are not essentially meant for the managing funds and fund accounting functions. So functions like portfolio management, class structuring, having a series of shares accounting, equalization accounting, these accounting methodologies or the calculations which are very important or very relevant for the AIF category funds, these will not be supported by these local accounting softwares. So it's important to see the functionality of the applications used by the fund administrator to serve the needs of the fund managers as well as the investors. So as Jay said earlier pointed out that we are using the best in class accounting application, which is PFS Paxis. So Paxis is a globally reputed accounting software, and it already has inbuilt all the necessary functionalities of the fund administration role, and it provides customized services and solutions to all the fund managers in terms of the calculation, different calculations and the calculations of performance fees, the hurdle rates, benchmark rates, calculations of management fees, tier-based admin fees, and everything. So the application itself is a class application and industry reputed application. Also to check the applications and platforms used to do the AML KYC checks, which are in compliance with the local regulators, as well as a necessity to meet jurisdictional requirements. So we will talk about applications and technologies used for this AML KYC in the coming slides of the presentations. Uh, just moving on to the next slide, please.
Yeah, once again. Yes.
So yeah, in the meantime, any questions you may put those into the chat box. We will try to respond to it later. Yeah, so now since we have covered the role of the fund administrator and how important it is to choose a fund administrator from all aspects of it, let's talk about the scope of the fund administration. So what fund administrator brings being fund accounting, which essentially all the portfolio management and trade and non-trading activities, while as the transfer agency, or we call it as investor services, they will be focusing on the investor communication platform, as well as the preparation and documentation of the investor reports. So let's discuss that in detail. So scope of fund administration, the fund accounting team will be responsible for the net asset value calculation. It on a periodic basis, it can be daily, weekly, monthly, quarterly, as per the requirement of the fund and the fund managers. Calculation of funds, income and expense, accruals, the pricing and valuation of the portfolio from a third party market data provider at the current market value. We provide the financial reports like trial balance, balance sheet, valuation detail, profit and loss statement. There are various customized reports available from this our system itself, which helps the fund managers to see the funds performance. Reports. We also prepare the financial statement, provide the audit. We are in touch with the auditors, means globally, whenever the audit happens and the financial reports get sent out to the auditors, we help auditors with their queries and questions. So that service also we provide. We also assist the fund managers in opening the fund bank accounts and operating them. We also provide the reconciliation between the broker data, custodian data, bank data, investment managers statement. So we have the reconciliation tools in place as well. In terms of accounting services, we maintain and file all the funds financial books and records. We also assist in making or generating the payments of fund expenses. Settlement of daily purchase and sales of securities, ensuring the collection of dividends and interest, making sure all the corporate actions are accounted for, corporate events are listed for. We also provide the calculation of total returns and the other performance measures of the fund. So that those categories mostly covered by the fund accounting department. Now coming back to the investor service or transfer agency department, the investor services team will be responsible for preparation and distribution of investor contract notes when they are dealing into the fund. So they are subscribing to the fund or redeeming from the fund. We will be preparing the contract notes for the investors and distributing it to them. Providing the NAV statements. So the NAV statements at the end of the valuation period will be generated and sent over to the investors from the system itself. There will be no manual intervention. When it comes to the private equity funds, preparation of capital calls and distribution notices, etc., will be done from the investor services team. We can also any other form of communication that the fund manager exclusively wish to have with the investors. So rather than the fund manager going to individual investors through mail or anything and writing that, we can do that within the system itself. So we can share the fund fact sheets or any other specific notices or any newsletters that the fund manager wishes to send it over to the investors. We can incorporate that through the system itself. So that is essentially the part which investor services team will be managing from our end. Along with that, the investor services team will also be responsible to perform the due diligence and AML checks and reporting and inform it to the fund managers and their investors, set of investors. So that is also done from the investor services department. Yeah, so that covers this particular slide. Jayesh, can we move on to the next slide, please? Sorry, Jayesh, previous slide, please. Yeah, so let's talk about the important fund characteristics or the considerations which the fund managers and fund administrators will be involved in throughout the life of the fund. To begin with, there will be the offering terms which we can discuss with the fund managers, and we can implement those offering terms into our fund administrative role as well. So as you know, the subscription and redemptions, the terms and deadlines will be defined in the fund PPM, and accordingly the fund administrators will can follow those minimum subscription amounts or the deadline or the cutoff time to accept the subscription request or redemption requests according to the terms that are already disclosed in the BPM itself. Secondly, when it comes to structuring, so here during the early stages of the fund launch, the fund administrators can actually assist the fund managers based on their investment strategy and their requirements on the structure that is best suited to the fund managers. So it can be an open-ended or a closed-ended fund based on the again the investment strategy that the fund managers wants to implement. They can go for a master feeder structure, essentially if they are willing to attract investors from different tax jurisdictions. Multi-share classes, as we have discussed this. So multi-share classes is useful to firstly initiate equal panel as well as equal proportion of incentive fee or performance fee charged to each set of investors. It can also be utilized if the fund managers are willing to charge different set of commercials to different investors. So if fund managers are willing to different management fees and performance fees to different set of investors that are coming in, so they can have different classes of series or series and classes into the fund. So they can go for the multi-series class. They can also apply for a side pocket classification or side pocket facility if they want to park some sort of riskier investment or illiquid investment as a separate bucket, and the pro rata allocation of that PNL should be going to a specific set of investors only. So we can have that structure in place as well. We also facilitate dividend distributions and distribution waterfall calculations, so we can accommodate different kind of waterfall calculations or distribution waterfall calculations through our system. So the system can itself calculate the waterfall for investors as per the waterfall methodology implemented by the fund. Another important aspect when it comes to the net asset value calculation is the pricing policy. So the pricing policy can be determined and defined for each of the fund, and the fund managers can decide on the pricing source. It can be BBG, Reuters, or any third party market provider, and basis which we will follow. The system itself can retrieve or fetch the pricing and the valuation from that third party data provider without any manual intervention. So that's an automatic process, and we can discuss the valuation frequency, and according to which we will target to provide the net asset value calculation to the investment managers, and in turn we will distribute the NAV statements once the NAVs are finalized and approved by the the fund managers to the investors directly. And it again goes throughout the system, and there will be no manual intervention when communicating to the investors. Another important point, or we can say characteristics when it comes to alternative investment funds or AIFs, is the calculation of performance fee or carried interest when it comes to private equity market. And most of the fund managers seek our assistance in calculation of this performance fee, carried interest, following different methodologies. So when it comes to performance fee, we can go for multi-series or a series of shares accounting method or equalization credit and deficit method. Uh, the system that we use has the capacity to accommodate any of these accounting calculations methods. So again, a manual intervention is pretty much avoided when it comes to the performance fee and management fee calculations. So the accurate performance fee and management fee will be calculated by the system. So that's a very important aspect in this. So we also can accommodate hurdle rates. It can be a fixed hurdle rate chosen by the fund managers, or it can be upon the performance of the fund manager.
Kishore, we are not able to hear you. You are not audible.
Based on the PNL.
No, it's better. Hello. Kishore, we are not able to hear you.
Maybe Jayesh, you can ask Kishore to re-log in.
I'm chatting in the WhatsApp. He has some problem. Yes, doing it. Kishore, you can hear us? I think you are mute or I'm on mute. Okay. How come you are in mute? Once again, I'll see. You can yourself unmute. I'm
Jayesh, I made Kishore also the host, co-host now.
okay. Kishore, you are yeah.
He's on mute.
Okay, am I audible now?
Yeah, you're audible.
Yeah, so sorry for the interruption. I think there was some connection issue and I lost my connection and then I went on mute. Okay, so till when I was audible, may I know?
Kishore, you were discussing about the importance funds characteristic nearby net asset value. You were about to close that pricing policy and valuation frequency.
Okay, sure. So coming down to the next point is a very important aspect in terms of AIFs, which is performance fee calculation and carried interest calculation, and when it comes to the private equity world. So here our system is fully enabled to do the calculations using the different accounting methods. It can be a series of shares accounting method for performance fee calculation, or it can be equalization credit and deficit method. So Paxos has both the modules within itself, so it becomes an automatic process for us, and we can provide an accurate information to the fund managers itself. Talking about the hurdle rates, we can accommodate hurdle rates, different sorts of, it can be a manual simple hurdle rate, which is a fixed hurdle rate decided by the fund managers, or it can be a floating hurdle rate based out of any particular benchmark such as S&P 500 globally, or it can be Nifty 50 index over here in India. So we can accommodate the hurdle rate calculation as well within our systems. So it becomes a very efficient way of doing the fund accounting, and we can provide accurate data to the fund managers as and when required. Same applies for management fee calculation. We can discuss the management fee basis as disclosed in the PPM, and we can take the calculation basis for the management fee within the system, and accordingly the system will automatically calculate the management fee accruals, and we can provide the same information to the fund managers. So these are the very important characteristics that comes into picture when we think of having a fund administrator's role into the AIF world. So that's about this slide. Apart from this, Jayesh, can you move on to the next one, please? So apart from the regular strict fund administration services, we also provide some other considerations wherein we support the fund managers in FATCA registration, CRS registration. If they wish to publish the NAVs, net asset value of their funds into the market data providers such as Bloomberg, we can also assist them with the ISN and Bloomberg application. And also we also support the fund managers with bank account opening process here. So this is kind of an ad hoc activity that we support the fund managers globally. I think that covers the portion of presentation from my end. Now I would like to introduce Mr. Calvin Tan, who is our regional head of operations, to take care of the further presentation. Over to you, Calvin.
Thank you, Kishore, and pleasure to meet all of you. And thank you for joining into this webinar. Josh, would you mind pushing it to the next slide? So whilst we're waiting, basically,
Sure.
My name is Calvin Tan. I'm the regional head of operation here at Ascent, so I oversight all the offices. A bit of background. I started at Ascent, and basically I have helped to build up the whole business within Ascent itself, from each jurisdictional office itself. And I want to start off with what makes a fund how would you choose your fund administrator itself? And the fund administrator choices that you make itself, you should choose a fund administrator that is very focused and have heavily invested into technology itself, technology to support your fund fully, as much as capable, and as well as streamlining and automating a lot of the procedures so that there's less manual work and less errors that will be made for your fund itself. And I want to start off with the fund accounting and transfer agency accounting system itself. As Kishore has mentioned, standard retail accounting software like MYOB, QuickBooks, or Xyro are not built for funds itself, and they have their own limitations. So therefore, why is a fund accounting system so important itself? Well, you want a fund accounting system that actually has an integrated transfer agency function itself. What do I mean by this? It means that you can actually basically your fund accounting system could support closed-ended and open-ended funds itself within the fund accounting system itself. So for closed-ended funds, you want basically capital call facilitation, closing, distribution functions, interest equalization functions itself. To compare, of course, when you have multiple closing, you want the equalization factor to be in place, and that's what makes it is important to have a fund accounting system to support closed-ended fund. Whilst equally important, open-ended funds itself should facilitate series and equalization structures itself. As you know, series and equalization structures are two different performance fee accounting computation itself. You also want a fund accounting system that also take care of the fund accounting function itself. Basically, you want a fund accounting software to take care of your management fee computation automatically, your performance fee computation. This includes hurdles. Hurdles could also be static or a benchmarking hurdles. You can benchmark to the Nifty or the TopX, and these should be automated within the fund accounting function itself. You want a fully integrated portfolio function. Not only it handles equity or bonds, but also derivatives, spot transactions itself, forwards. So, and as well as the fund accounting system here we use at Ascent itself has the automated feed from data providers. So basically it's an automatic feed from Bloomberg itself. So again, less manual intervention itself, and definitely supports multi-currency base itself. We have funds that runs INR, USD, JPY, Euro, SGD, and it supports a portfolio that is invested into multi-currencies around the world. And furthermore, at the center, we also support cryptocurrency funds itself. So that includes basically crypto derivatives and to NFTs, to DeFi transactions, and as well as coin trading transactions itself. So the accounting system is one consideration when choosing the fund admin itself. Next slide, please, Jayesh. All right, now we come to the AML, our own AML proprietary platform itself. Jayesh did touch on this a little bit in the beginning, but I'll just go into further detail of what it is. It's so we have our own in-house proprietary eKYC system that we have built itself that helps to automate a lot of the manual processes when investors subscribe into the fund. So over here, what happens is that we actually will generate a specific URL for investors to go inside. They can subscribe via our platform itself. And of course, it's a fully automated onboarding system itself, whereby the investors can go inside, fill in their particulars, and as well as sign the shareholder agreements itself, or any other forms that the investment manager may need, FATCA, CRS, W8s, W9s. All the forms can be signed and digitally executed itself. So it transits away from all these manual wet ink signatures that needs to be couriered to the fund admin as well. At the same time, these can be digitally signed off by the trustee, the investment manager, so as not to basically have this waiting time for everybody to execute, whilst it can be all done digitally itself. Of course, we have the standard verification checks, OTP form verification, email OTP verifications, as well as the investors could use our platform to actually upload all their KYC documents itself into our platform. So again, lessening the burden of too many emails itself. As you may know, if you have a few hundred investors on your fund itself, it could be quite cumbersome to actually track all the emails itself. So this gives you a more streamlined, more organized way to onboard your investors. Next slide, please, Jayesh. So we do also have a back-end screening platform itself, because we also have to take care of the back-end. Again, this is an in-house proprietary platform itself that gives us this flexibility to carry out certain functions itself. One of the most important functions is, of course, the screening process itself of your investors. So we are connected to all the well-known established screening providers, Dow Jones, and as well as WorldCheck One itself. So we do use the best of both worlds for the Dow Jones and WorldCheck One itself. Of course, we have to do your adverse media screening itself, but additionally, on top of that itself, we do track the expiry dates of the documents that the investor provides. Passport is one of the common examples that expires, and you want your fund admin to track all the expired documents so that at least they know when to actually reach out to the investors, of course, with the investment manager permission, to actually collect all the updated documents. So the investment manager knows that he can rely on the fund admin to have the most updated document. We do also have ongoing due diligence, a weekly screen of your investors, very useful, especially during the Russian sanctions time right now when they are updating the list. So you do want your fund admin to at least have some ongoing due diligence. And of course, we do the periodic risk review, where we'll review the investors at different time points itself, ensuring that any changes of the investors, whether it's maybe a directorship change on a corporate structure or shareholder change on the corporate structure, all these are taken into account to during and factoring in all these changes to determine risk rating of investors. So we do have a whole complete eKYC system, and of course, if any of the audience wants to know more about it, you can also always arrange a demo with Jayesh, and he has put his email down in the chat function as well for you to take note. Next slide, please, Jayesh. I want to now talk also about a bit about structuring of the fund itself, because in a sense itself, given that we manage quite a large number of funds, we do see all the various structures, and maybe one of the most common ones that we want to touch upon is the master feeder fund structure itself, and basically we do see various fund structures involving AIF funds itself, and how does AIF manager feeds in offshore investors into their fund via these offshore feeders itself. And of course, again, you want a fund accounting system that actually can support master feeder structure itself, especially when you have multiple masters and multiple feeders itself, whereby it could become a complex structure. You want a fund accounting system that helps to automate the process, so it is effortless for both investment managers and as well as investor reporting itself. And coming to this slide itself, whereby we have a diagram of what is becoming very popular actually in terms of requests or queries that's coming to Ascent itself, just to share with the audience. We do see many of the AIF funds itself that are actually trying to get offshore investors to come in itself, and they do basically set up their feeder funds in Gift City, Singapore. Now we're getting quite a lot of queries as well due to the BCC funds itself, and of course Mauritius, very common jurisdiction as well. And what happens is that investors will come into these feeder funds itself, and of course it's managed by an investment manager itself. And they will invest into the master fund itself. Of course, in India, there might be local investors also investing into master funds itself. And of course, there might be a case where this is managed by investment manager or via another party, which is the sponsor itself. And this is one of the more upcoming popular query that we have been getting. So hence, it is worth noting in this webinar on this structure itself. And of course, you want the fund accounting system to be a straight-through process itself between the funds itself. So we do have the fund accounting system that is able to automatically feed data from the master fund to the feed fund, as well as our eKYC platform is able to group together all the investors itself, so that the fund manager has a nice overview of all the investors and can access the documentation of all the investors at any time that they want itself. And just to maybe before we close up for queries itself, I do want to highlight maybe one of Ascent specialities, which is actually within administering debt funds itself. We do administer quite a large AUM of debt funds over here that covers defaulted debts, restructured debts, and as well as distressed debts itself. Moreover, in the debt space, we do administer many funds with facility agreements itself, as well as short-term loans, more likely for SME loans itself, and as well as we do more of the niche as well, factoring funds, whereby the funds purchases invoices at a discount, and as well as we do administer microfinancing funds itself that are around the region in the APAC region itself. So that's just my part itself. I'll hand it over back to Jayesh for any Q&A that the audience may have.
Thank you, Calvin. Thank you, Kishore. And yeah, we are happy to take questions. So I will box. If you have any questions, please let us know. Cost. So yes, so cost is completely depend on size of the fund, and the work scope, structure. So you can definitely reach out to me over email, or my mobile number I have also shared here. Definitely we can discuss on the cost. Typically cost is, if we talk in the bips, I'm just giving you a ballpark figure. Overall from the industry perspective, not from the ascent perspective, it vary from the fixed fee and the bips, minimum fee, maximum fee. There's a lot of different calculations goes for the fund accounting, and depending on the what services you are taking. So you have to reach out to us on for the cost. Sorry. Any other questions?
Jayesh, there was one question, maybe if you can take it up. So there was a question. Suppose if an AIF manager wants to do managed services, vis-a-vis taking a platform, what is the number of ops team he should have ideally?
Yeah, I have answered to that question
Is it?
directly to that. No problem. We can discuss over here that. See, again, depend on the fund size. So if you see Edelweiss, if you see Kotak, if you see Avendes, they are the large. They are managing large AUM. They are managing different categories. So again, what size of fund, what structure you want to manage. But generally, fund investor managers are always a very small size of team, and if you have 2 to 3 person for review of all the reports, which is generated by the fund administrator or different other agencies like auditors and all. So 2 to 3 is a very good number, but in some of cases I have seen that 1 or 2 people also managing it. So again, completely depend on your fund structure, investments. Yes. Senthil, you can see any other question to answer here?
No, Jayesh, it's almost covered.
Yes.
There was one more question. Yeah. Nothing much. Almost all the questions have been addressed.
And definitely you can reach out to us, and we can definitely discuss one-to-one on your query, question. And thank you for attending this. Thank you, KFinTech team. Thank you, SN team, and thank you all the audience and thank you, Equilify, Aditya. We'll connect for next session. I think tomorrow or maybe.
Thank you,
Yeah.
everyone. Thanks for providing the opportunity. It was nice meeting all of you virtually. Thank you.
Thank you, Kishore.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, and thanks all of you for being patiently listening.